Hey all, Taves here, back playing some more Planet Zoo, and welcome to Australia. So I'm a little behind the schedule this week. Usually the videos come out on a Friday, but obviously as everyone knows, the Australia DLC dropped on Tuesday, so I started working on this project on Tuesday, and yeah, I'm a little bit slow. So yeah, a little bit late on this week's episode, apologies for that, but hopefully the result is worth it. Obviously when you get a new DLC, you're kind of trying to work out all the new bits and pieces. So yeah, you've probably already seen, if you're someone that's following other Planet Zoo people, you've probably already seen 1,000,001 videos already. So hopefully I can do something that kind of is a little bit unique. We shall see. So I think this is actually going to be, I'm not 100% sure yet because I tend to change my mind quite often, but I think this is going to be something that we progress at least for a couple of episodes, because if you've watched me before, then you'll know that I'm definitely a person that is obsessive about the details, and it takes me a while to get stuff done, but I think the results are usually good. But what that means is that I kind of end up always in a place where I'm looking back at the habitat and going, I just kind of want to do that a little bit more, that little bit more. So we shall see. I think maybe at least there's going to be a couple of episodes on this. I'm not sure I'll do all of the different DLC animals, but we may well do. We have a little bit of an interesting project we were discussing on Twitch the other day on the stream. So if you don't know, I have been streaming these builds on Twitch, and that's slightly the reason why I'm a little bit slow. I need to kind of work out how I'm going to do that better or quicker and get the videos done as well. So that first bit there, we just created kind of what is supposed to be like a dried up riverbed. What I found really interesting with this build, and you'll see this both in the time lapse and also in the tour. We're not going to have any cinematics today, just the tour at the end, because there's quite a bit of detail that I'm not kind of covering here. But what I thought was kind of interesting was to play around the idea of there being like a transition point. So a lot of people associate, and Frontier have gone heavy on the kind of red centre part of Australia, but there's also there's a lot of not desert areas, places in the sort of Northern Territory that are really interesting kind of transition points between the desert and the tropical areas. So this is supposed to be more of the sort of, it's not 100% going to be accurate, but this is supposed to be more like an old kind of bush tracker's hut in the Northern Territory. So kind of in the transition point. So places like Kakadu, for example, are really like tropical rainforests. So this was supposed to be sort of a sort of desert to prairie transition area. So you'll see we've got this little river in, and I love all the DLC pieces, but I absolutely love how scruff you can go. So the ability to be able to kind of get all this rusted stuff in and get it all kind of textured up, and I've left that, deliberately made all that riverbank kind of really scruffy. It sort of feels like it always fits to the dingoes. The dingoes have definitely got a kind of stray dog vibe to them, so I thought I'd play off that idea. So we're just creating their hut here. As you'll see, I haven't used the build pieces, which is part of what I wanted to do. I haven't used the grid pieces. I've used planks. So a lot of saves going on in this build. I think this is still on one of the streams, so there's a few saves. I'm panicking that things are going to crash. So yeah, I've actually used all the individual plank pieces to create this, just so I can get this kind of jankiness, and I've got much more freedom over what it looks like. So we do a few bits and pieces. This is really just. It has no purpose other than a bit of a weenie or a sort of aesthetic like focal point. So we're doing some, the idea is supposed to be this hut is really old and has been patched up over time. So we put, taken one of the walls out there and put a bit of corrugated sheet in and putting some battens to kind of support it. And a lot of this habitat is kind of a blend between what I really like is the option to be able to have things that are really scruffy, but then you have to bear in mind, and that's actually perfectly right on time, that this is still a zoo, so there still has to be some sort of undercurrent or underbellied like realism to it. So here we're kind of putting some steel and some concrete underneath this hut as a sort of, you know, little nod to the reality of this kind of faux hut that we've got on top. Unfortunately, because it's so rickety and you know, gappy and all those sorts of things, the dingoes don't actually go inside. They do for some reason tend to go on the roof, which is a bit unusual. They sort of jump their way up there, but they can't traverse an individual one of these planks, and so don't go inside the hut, which is a bit of a shame, but doesn't matter too much. So yeah, lots of details on this hut and lots of details in the whole habitat. It was really just I think when you get a load of new pieces, it's just an experiment in what you can do. The roofs are a little bit cleaner than I wanted, so I wanted it to kind of look like that they've been patched over. So, you know, what we started doing on the stream was putting these planks down, which was a suggestion of one of the viewers, and then I went a little bit further with that and wanted to make it look like they'd been kind of nailed up. So this is what I'm creating here. I'm just creating sort of 3 or 4 of these little tacked boards. They look a little bit more like staples there, I guess, but so just making some random patterns in these. I'm using both the planks and one of the signs there, so just to get those different sizes, and then we can go and put those up on the roof. And so I think they just break up the texture a little bit, make it not quite so clean. I think the big problem is obviously it's rusty, but because it's a grid piece, the pieces are all very square. That's probably the one thing that I wasn't entirely happy about with this build. I wanted it to kind of look a bit more shabby, and like the roof was damaged. Obviously we've damaged the internal structure, like the hut itself is all kind of rickety. Okay, so then continuing this principle of there being, I guess, the contrast between the backstage zoo bits and the faux kind of outer layer. We've got a tunnel here. Tunnel goes through this little hill, this little mountain, to where the keeper hut is, and where the actual kind of the night hut is. So we'll see that more in the build. We'll see everything more in the real time section. A little bit of a nod to the Devil's Marbles there. So that's rock features in. I think that's in the outback. I have actually been there. I can't remember exactly where it is, but it's in the desert somewhere. These kind of all these little monoliths that kind of stand, look like they've been dropped by the gods, like these perfect little sort of spherical rocks. Yeah, this was quite a little fun idea actually. It's supposed to look like there's been a jeep has kind of got stuck in this swampy mud of that riverbed as trying to cross. So just playing with this idea that they've tried to pull it out, but it's lost. There's no way they're getting it out of there. So yeah, just create this little kind of rope thing. I had to make it look like it was kind of attached to both the jeep and the rock in enough of a way. What we're doing now, okay, so we're back to the hut now. Doesn't look like the hut yet, but you'll see in a second what I'm creating. Once I'd sort of established that the dingoes couldn't get inside, I thought, okay, well, what am I going to do with it? It's basically I'll just play around with some ideas, and why not create a rickety old bed out of these rusted pipe pieces. Just to give it some interest, really. Again, this serves absolutely no purpose whatsoever, other than just an interesting visual thing to show on the video. Your guests can't even see it because the guests are on the other side of the river. I just noticed I have the archer there laying on his back of reference to the size. Initially, this was going to be a pillow, but I actually thought this texture worked really well as like a scruffy mattress. So we're creating a mattress for the bed. Okay, now it's going into the hut. So we're just kind of positioning this in the floor. You can see how rickety the floor is, getting our mattress in. Looks like the sort of mattress that probably wouldn't be one that you'd want to lie on, but we shall see. little bit of a gesture of a door. There's no door attached there. I actually ended up leaving a hole, but kind of deliberately wanted to make it just look like there was a door sitting next to where it should be. So it ends up just being kind of propped up there with a sign on it and things. So a little trick if you trying to get the scale of a door is to use one of the in-game assets of the door. If you're not going to use that door, just use that as a size reference. Is what I just did there. So just putting this together, very simple plank pieces. There's a lot of planks in this. Okay, so then this was the next one. This was the next little. Again, there's like 3 or 4 of these little visual points, which we'll see. Just saw one pop up that I haven't actually shown in the speed build, but you'll see that in the tour. This is obviously supposed to be a termite mound. Okay, so backstage now. God, we're jumping all around in this one, but as I said, you'll see it all more in the tour at the end. So this was as I said, the contrast between the clean cut backstage area. So this is all very steel and concrete, and that rough and ready kind of natural looking outer area that the guests see. I think I'm getting to a point, I think, where I almost enjoy the backstage areas more than I enjoy the guest facing stuff. I don't know why that is, and I don't think it's particularly well catered for in the game. So here we are, like a painstaking amount of effort that I spent on this. I mean, it comes out really well, but there's all of the little gates that you see. I've created what is supposed to be like a pulley system that the keepers can control the gates from inside, so from outside the habitat. So without having to go in there with the dingoes, they can open and close those. And you'll see more of this as we go on. But you see these little extra kind of closed off cages, and now we're creating these little sort of separation points. This is something you definitely see a lot in zoos that isn't really catered for in the game, but hopefully at some point. I love this chipboard piece as well. They are really kind of definitely useful as part of that kind of scruff aesthetic. So just giving this a bit of a window. It's a pretty simple little structure. Just gave it some detailing really. So yeah, copying those windows around there. It's back in the front. I can't remember what I'm doing now. Yeah, the last thing that I did was actually start to think about the perimeter fence and the guest side. The guest side I think is going to be worked on more. I think that'll be the bit that we do probably in the next episode. So we are coming to the end of the speed build, guys. As I said, there'll be a tour up in a minute when we look at all the details a bit more. So see you then. Right, peeps, welcome to the tour. I hope you've got your mosquito cream on and a hat, unlike any of these fools, because it is a scorching hot day in the Australian outback. There's a couple of sunglasses, but not many. Alright, so let's do the tour. So as I said, I've kept this all fairly basic over this side. I think this probably needs some work. And I've taken some liberties with the flora that I've used. I don't think this is supposed to be in this setting, but as this is kind of the guest side, I've sort of figured that this would be planted, and that'd be all right. So first thing we see is the beautiful windmill up here, which is I can't take any credit for at all. Although I have done a little bit of fiddling with it. We'll get a closer look at that in a minute. That is from Bobson, who is a awesome content creator and has a bunch of really good stuff on the workshop, and has got a YouTube channel. And the links for that will be, or for both of those, will be in the description below. So yeah, kept this side really simple. You can see all this kind of stuff that I was fiddling with around in the update. But yeah, so there's some little like foliage bits and stuff here. Really love this view. It does. I think it kind of does. I don't know, enough to feel kind of natural looking. You'll have to let me know what you think. I like the fact that they kind of roam around. Amazingly, they don't jump this fence as well. This fence is obviously very low. That's quite a cool little thing as well that they do. They knock the ball off the top of the hill there. So yeah, let's go actually into the habitat. So here's how you get a lot of these huge, great big termite mounds in the deserts in Australia, and actually all over the world. But in Australia, they seem to be huge. I remember seeing quite a few that were amazingly huge. I'm not sure I've got this quite right, but they always one side of them is always, I think they're always north-south facing, or that they always kind of have a amazing kind of compass-like direction to them. I think it's something to do with the temperature regulation. I believe that's right. They're kind of, you see them, they're very flat often, and I believe they face away from the sun, or they have one side facing away. I might be wrong. It might be the opposite. They might have kind of one plane facing the front, and it's something to do with the temperature regulation. But kind of no one really understands how tiny little termites are managing that. But yeah, all over the outback. So this is a bit of a gesture. Obviously, it's not quite right because this looks a bit more rocky texture than it should look. And then a little mini one there. So as we kind of, and this is what I'm saying about the kind of the idea of the transition point. So you'll see this is a bit grassier. And actually over the other side of this fence is a bit grassier. Probably this should be a bit grassier as well. But we've kind of got this blending line. And I've done this, deliberately kind of thought about where the water is in order to, that would mean a little bit more grass. And some of the kind of, more lush foliage is around the grass. I think, again, I'm not sure things like agave are actually a natural species, or cactus at all. I don't think any cactus actually is a natural species in Australia, but has kind of proliferated its way into the biome. So played around with this for quite a while. I think I had more rapids for a while, and I ended up taking them out because I didn't think it kind of worked. So you may well have spotted this in the speed build, but I've raised the floor of the riverbed here with plaster pieces, and actually the plaster pieces have got, when they're in that colour, have got a really nice, let's just get rid of the HUD for a second, got a really nice almost sandy texture to them anyway, which works really well. So yeah, as we said, we sort of scruffed this up as much as we could, made it kind of marshy. It's supposed to be that there's kind of a marshy bit here. Again, there's another ball being knocked off the top. They seem to love doing that. Bits of rubbish and stuff like that. It's supposed to be that it's bits of the hut kind of ended up in here. So yeah, lots of the grass textures, a few things upside down here. May well have not noticed me doing that, but there's these little tops of these little thatch roofs work really well as kind of dried grass, and I've used that. I think I used that over here as well. Yeah, a bunch of these kind of little bits and pieces of that. There's a couple of pieces that work really well for that. So if we cross over, I love the fact that they come and swim in this as well. So we'll go in the hut first. I managed to kind of sink a little one of these tug rope things in here, which is really nice. So they will come and play with that and things. So we can head up here, I believe, in Tejicam, see what happens. We'll use the ramp. We'll use the ramp. So this is my desperate attempt to get them to actually come up here, but they don't. And this will probably be a bit janky in the camera mode because of these floors. So yeah, I kept it pretty simple. As I said, each of these planks is individually placed. I copied pieces around, as you would have seen. There's our slightly flea-bitten and rabid bed, which you wouldn't want to sleep in, because all the planks are broken anyway. So yeah, pretty simple in there. Quite like the way it came out. As I said, not entirely happy with the roof, but I would like it to have been able to be a little bit more broken looking. This is Mangle's Lodge, a la Joe Mangle. So we've got this little lean-to structure, which was just to kind of break off the things. As you can see here, if I get a bit of an angle, did a bunch of this little like patchworking stuff. This is a little sleeping area. I used these amazing new what are these called? Pallets. Yeah, so just kind of went to town a bit with the like, you know, things are broken. There's a hole there. There's a window. This little trim is kind of fallen off. There's a window blocked up. There's a whole panel missing there. The door's not on its hinges, all that sort of thing. So you're pretty happy with the way that came out. And then we kind of started, I'm going to carry on, you know, adding bits and pieces. This was just a bit of an experiment, really. Playing around with this kind of, I don't know, sort of steampunk idea, which may or may not come into fruition in the rest of this zoo. We shall see. But yeah, created this little kind of outside cooker thing. So it's supposed to be that these are the, you know, doors to access inside, and then there's sort of temperature gauges and some dials up here, and this is supposed to be like a hot plate and a little vent at the top. Actually, you know, I should probably add some smoke into that. That would work. That would make sense, wouldn't it? Can add a smoke effect into that. So these little dials are actually these new funny little kind of barbecue things. I've got this cool little dial on that you can sunk 3 of those in. So yeah, utterly pointless. I needed a lot of stuff to kind of hide it away, but I don't know. Just was a kind of a fun little feature. Let me get rid of the camera. Oh, I'm stuck. There we go. And what else we got? So yeah, we showed this in the speed build, but here's our little kind of sunken truck. They've tried to put a board down in order to get some traction, and they've put a rope around it. And obviously, the idea was that at some point this was tied round, but yeah, they gave up and left it. The river has claimed it. Here is Bobson's windmill. He actually has on the workshop version of this. We'll fly up there in a second. At the end, he actually has a like a water tank and stuff, and he did this pre the DLC. So I have changed it around a little tiny bit. I hope you don't mind that, Bobson, if you're watching. But yeah, because he did this pre DLC, he didn't have some of the pieces, and so I swapped out this rusty pipe for what he had, and added this kind of railing, took out the tank and things, and made it, you know, as I said, made it look like it was broken. It's supposed to come down to whatever that is, but it's broken now. But yeah, I think he did a really amazing job at that, and I was looking at them and just sort of going, I could make my own, but this is so good, and he, you know, deserves some credit for it, so thought I'd do that. Added a little kind of top sheet over the top of the African hut, just to kind of the African tent, to create a tent that feels a little bit different. And then, you know, boundary fence is pretty simple. The animals can get all the way kind of up here. That's the koalas one, but they can get all the way up here. They get all the way up to this point, which is kind of nice. And as you've seen, you see them knocking the balls off the top. So let's zoom. Oh, and there's our kind of devil's marbles things, or kind of gesture to those. Right. So a couple of things I just want to show you. So I don't know if I talked about this in the speed, but I don't think I did. But I was really conscious to make sure that the tunnel there was hidden from the guest view. So as you see, you never see them going, and you never see them going through that tunnel. You just kind of see them disappear. So let's zoom over. Oh, well, that's an upside down wheelbarrow, by the way, just sunk into the floor, just a bit of texture. So let's scoot through here. It's a little bit low for us, but we'll duck our heads and scoot. Right, so yeah, this was kind of little, as I said, it's supposed to be a contrast, you know, the cleanness and the the sterility, I guess, to the industrial part of of what goes on behind the scenes in the zoo. So we have as I said, painstaking process. Actually, I need to cover that little gap there, but never mind. Of trying to create some logic to how these gates work. So this piece is attached to the gate. I've had to use these kind of, this idea that it just kind of goes in and there's like some sort of turning piece, because there's nothing that you can get that's small enough here. Oh, we've got a doggy escaped. Never mind. So they pull, in theory, they pull on the rope and the rope shuts the gate. So that rope runs around there. Again, it's supposed to come round another turn there, runs overhead and down. Let's just see if we can capture this doggy. 1 second, guys. So actually, literally just as I pressed the pause button, it stopped. So so it comes down to this point at which you can pull on the ropes. So the idea is just that you pull the rope down and you tie it off, and to one of those points. So we have, and then we have these little extra pens that do the same. So they all go into this like junction point. And I think I got it right. It took me a while to kind of work it out in my head, but this one is up, so is a shorter rope. I think that's right. Up means is a lower rope. So open means a lower rope. Closed means top rope. Oh, we've got dingoes escaping left, right, and centre. And then the idea is just that they. I don't know what that is. I think they're getting on the roof. They're definitely not escaping. Let's go quickly. They're definitely not escaping over the habitat fence. But I think they have a tendency to jump down onto that roof somehow. No idea. Let's see if we can we... Oh, it's a bit tight, but let's see if we can just jump down there. And then, I just placed... just because I needed to put them in, but I placed some of these temporarily. The prefabs. So the idea was supposed to be that the gates lifted, so they manually lift these side gates or these side doors, slide one of the little poles through, so the pole goes through there and there, and locks the door open, and then they pull on the rope to access that side. I feel like there's dogs out everywhere. I did also put this little side gate in for the keepers, so when I want to allow the keepers to get into the habitat, I kind of just do this. That lets the keepers through. It shouldn't let the dogs out of this door. They should have to still go through the tunnel. It doesn't really actually seem to be essential that you do that, because as we've seen in the tropical dome, the keepers will still clean the habitat regardless. So I think that's come out pretty well. Pretty happy with it. Let's just do a little fly over the top, see it in night mode. It's a good time of day to see it is the sunset, obviously because of the beautiful orange sunset that we get in the game. So hopefully that's hopefully you guys are happy with that. I know it's a bit late, but yes, I shall do my best to get back on schedule next week. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Very much appreciate it. My name is Toves, and I shall catch you guys on the next one. Take it easy.